So I finally finished the Adventures of Elliot. It took me a little longer than I expected. Deltarune Chapter 5 came out and kind of slowed me down a bit, and I was only playing the game for about like 2 hours or so every day or every other day. So it took a little longer than I expected to finish it, but I finished it, I got the true ending, and overall I really enjoyed the game. I'm excited to talk about it and to get into it and kind of why I liked it and all the pros and cons or whatever. So for most of the game, you spend the time exploring the map. It's like an open map. There's not really any load screens. There are like these little shrines. So you're going to be spending most of your game exploring the map, progressing the story, finding these little shrines to upgrade either yourself or your fairy companion. They're like little Breath of the Wild shrines, which is kind of cool. Like they're just little simple puzzles or combat trials or something. Nothing too crazy. There's a lot of side quests, so you're going to be doing a lot of those. They flesh out the story and are actually required to get the true ending, which, if you're playing this game, just go for the true ending. Like, there are three endings. There's the good ending, the bad ending, and the true ending. The true ending is, like, that's just the definitive end of the game. The good and bad endings, like, it's very obvious you're not supposed to stop playing there. Most of the game doing is fighting enemies, exploring the map and shrines, doing side quests and talking to the characters and stuff, and it all will eventually coalesce into the big true ending, and it just makes for a really good gameplay loop. Something simple you can pick up for a bit, put down. Yeah, that's basically the game in a nutshell. So starting with the visuals, it's that great HD 2D art style. All of those games are just really beautiful looking. This one's, because it's a more of an action game, it's a bit more open, and like the environments are like a bit more like detailed and stuff, so they're really pretty. Honestly, like no complaints on like the visuals of the game. If you like HD 2D, obviously you're gonna love this. The game has like these like little character portraits and stuff while they're talking, and it just adds a lot of extra character, because like the other HD 2D games like Octopath and Dragon Quest, they don't really have those, and you sometimes don't really get a good idea of what the character's like supposed to like really look like. The only like complaint I'd say I have with the visuals is like the different eras, because the game is about time travel. You go through these different eras of time, and they really don't look that different. There's the main town area. There's only one town throughout the whole game. It's a big town, and it changes how it looks in the different eras, so it doesn't feel like exactly the same town. But that's the only part that makes you feel like, oh, I'm in a different era. Like, you leave and like it's basically just wilderness again. Like, I could kind of tell, but I definitely think if they do a sequel and it still keeps the time travel mechanic, I think that's something they could do a bit better. Maybe change up like what the enemies look like in different eras. But yeah, the visuals overall really great, really charming, but just they're not distinct enough. I feel like you're gonna be going through those same places over and over again, which is not really an issue because they're really pretty looking. Going over to the gameplay, the combat is great. I mean, it's the center stage of the game. It's what you're going to be doing for the majority of the game, and you unlock all of the weapons pretty early on, and they're all pretty varied, but the combat in general, it starts out pretty simple and mashy, and it could potentially leave you with like a bad impression. Like, is this all you're gonna be doing? It's just mashing this button and just kind of hoping and praying for the best. But it does eventually get much better once you unlock more magicite. It just completely changes how the weapons work, and it's really fun to experiment around with like, what kind of magicite do I like? Like, how do I want this weapon to work? You unlock the magicite pretty quickly, so things will ramp up pretty quickly. I would just say don't judge the combat based on the opening like hours of the game. For the most part, I stuck with the sword and boomerang, especially towards like the beginning. It was just, I would just feel like a pretty classic combo, and it's just kind of what I liked. But as I got more magicite, I definitely started to experiment with more weapons and switch things up. The sword and boomerang, I had this really fun combo going where like I was going for like crits, to where I could use the boomerang, and like while it was spinning, my sword had like an extra crit rate, and my crits would do more damage because of magicite. So I was just like melting through enemies. You can get like lightning attacks on your boomerang. You can get lightning attacks on like your hammer, fire and ice on like your chain weapon. It's really fun once you start to level up more. Like that's what I mean. Like the progression is not. It's not like a basic RPG where you're level 1, now you're level 2. You're going throughout the map finding these heart pieces and finding magicite and stuff, and honestly, it's a refreshing way to level up because you're not just sitting there grinding enemies over and over. You're actually like doing different things, and I honestly found that a bit cooler for this type of game than just fighting a bunch of enemies to level up. Like you do still do that because you level up your magicite, but yeah, the more I was playing the game, it started to feel less like like just another Zelda-like game. Like I've recently played Mina the Hollower, and it's definitely its own thing, but it's also like really leaning into like the classic Zelda nostalgia, and I thought this game was like, oh, it's obviously gonna do the same thing, and it does to an extent. Not like it does a lot to stand out with its progression and like the focus on combat, because like there are dungeons, but they're not really like puzzly dungeons. They're more like combat focused and navigation. So if you don't like those like long drawn out puzzles, honestly, you would really like this game. But yeah, it starts to stand out more from just being a Zelda game. It has a more in-depth story. The combat's a lot more in-depth. The main character actually talks. So it does a lot more to just stand out, and I really like that. The best part about the combat in this game, and like the gameplay in general, are the bosses. The bosses are like a huge standout part to me. They each like have their own unique gimmicks and ways of beating them. They have like these like interesting patterns to learn and dodge. I mean, to me, it reminded me of like kind of like a Final Fantasy XIV like raid in a way, like a mix of that. And like I know other action RPGs do the same thing. Like they'll have like glowy parts on the ground, and you gotta like figure out how to dodge them or figure out what's going on. That was the most fun part to me, honestly, was the bosses. And I definitely recommend playing this game on hard mode if you want like any semblance of a challenge, especially in the early hours. The game is like really easy at first, especially just slashing through enemies, and the bosses are a little harder, but like once you figure them out, it's like, okay, I can beat this guy. So I played the game on hard mode the whole time. You don't have to, but I just did it just to, give myself some kind of challenge with this game, because I didn't want to just be, mindlessly mashing through enemies and stuff. And the game is a decent challenge if you put it on hard mode. It's not like impossible, but like it can be a little more challenging, and it's honestly what I recommend if you've played any kind of action game before. But yeah, that's the gameplay out the way. The story, it feels like a pretty classic RPG story. Like to me, it reminds me of a mix of like Octopath and like Chrono Trigger with like a little bit of Zelda in there. It's a story about Elliot traveling through time in the different eras to save the princess from a curse. So it's a pretty familiar setup, but it has a lot of likable characters, and they become more fleshed out, like the side quests and stuff. And obviously I recommend doing all the side quests, because I think you have to do all of them to get the true ending. But really, it's not that bad. There's not that many side quests, and a lot of them are pretty short. And they add a lot more to the overall like world building and characters. So I ended up really liking a lot of them, and they're honestly like some of the more like memorable parts. So I would recommend doing those. As I mentioned before, the story has 3 different endings: a good, bad, and true ending. And once again, I recommend that true ending, because that is the definitive end of the game. Like, don't get to the bad ending or the good ending and just be like, well, what was that? I didn't really like that. Because it's the true ending that you need to get to. I mean, I'm really trying to stress that part, because I can see a lot of people dropping out of this game a little early. The story, like, it's nothing like too crazy or out there or different, but it's really simple and fun. It reminds me of like a Ghibli movie, if you've seen any of those, just like the cozy, comforting vibes of those. But the more you progress, the more the story starts to like ramp up and get really interesting. The game does this great thing where they foreshadow things, but it's things that don't seem really important or things you don't really think about, and they all just come together in that true ending, and it's like, oh, this changes the perspective of the story like so much. Like, I really did like that true ending. Like, that made me appreciate all the little side quests, all the little world building. So if you like that kind of thing where all of your exploring and side questing pays off, you would love this game, because it all really pays off in that true ending, and I really enjoyed it. But overall, I mean, I think this is a great new IP from Square Enix. I mean, I think there's a lot of potential for growth with like a sequel. They could have a sequel with like more varied environments. They could do like different weapon types, a bigger map, you know, more story stuff going on. It's kind of hard to say whether this game would be like a sequel or like just a different kind of thing. But I hope this game sells well enough to get a sequel, because I really enjoyed this game. I mean, it's something comforting to just sit down with after a long day and just play a couple hours, you know, grind some enemies, just doing some fun combat, talking to the characters, just taking in like the beautiful like scenery and vibes. It definitely gives me like that classic RPG vibe. It reminds me of like a Mana game or like Zelda, you know, something like that. And I think we need more types of games like that, where it's like an action game, but it's not too high stakes or too high of a skill ceiling to learn, but it can still be fun and, you know, a good challenge. Like, I like this game a good bit more than I thought I would. I was keeping up with the game, like, since it was announced in the Partner Direct. I think, like, it's been, like, almost a year ago, if not over a year ago. And since then, I've played a lot of the HD 2D games. Like, I've played Octopath 1 through 0, 0, 1, 2. I played the Dragon Quest HD collection. I think the only HD 2D game I haven't played is Live Alive, however you say it. I'm going to get around to that game eventually, but I think this is one of my favorite HD 2D games now. I, like, really enjoyed this game, and I think more people need to play it. If you're a fan of, you know, classic RPGs, side quests with, like, really good character dialogue and just banter and, you know, a story that starts out slow and comforting and cozy, but eventually turns into something much bigger, I think you'd enjoy this game. I can't recommend it enough, because not enough people played it, I feel like. And this is honestly one of the points of these reviews, is I want to get more people to play these games that I feel like don't get quite as much attention they deserve. I think right now this is one of my favorite games of the year. Probably is my favorite game of the year so far. I mean, we haven't had too many, but so far this is definitely my favorite. But that's about all I have to say about the game. Just a pretty, you know, messy review. I've had like a little notes and stuff, but, you know, just kind of talking off the dome, I guess. If you enjoyed the review, please, you know, leave a like and a comment what you think about it, what you think about the game. If I maybe, you know, persuade you to get the game or taught you something you didn't know about the game. I'm looking forward to doing more of these reviews. This is going to be one of the main things I do on this channel. It's going to be one of my main, like, series, is just these game reviews of, like, should you buy it, or, you know, is it worth it for you? I'm going to try to think of some kind of cool name to give it, but overall, I do recommend Adventures of Elliot. I recommend it if you're a fan of action RPGs, a fan of Zelda, just a fan of anything Square Enix has done before. I think you would really like this game. It's pretty cheap in comparison to how games are nowadays. I think it's $60, which, you know, used to be the default, but whatever. It's like $60 now. I could totally see this game going on sale for like Black Friday or something. So if this is something you'd like want to come back around to, I'm like sure this game is gonna go on sale around Black Friday. So yeah, just pick it up when you want. Overall, I recommend it, especially for the price these days. I mean, games get to be like $70, $80. $60's not so bad anymore. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this pretty messy review, and I'll see you guys in the next video.